That water heater in your basement never stops running, and you never stop paying for it. In 1997, roughly a third of homes in Pasadena, California, heated water with nothing but sunlight. No gas, no electricity. By 1941, over 60,000 solar water heaters had been installed across the United States. Then the Second World War buried the entire industry overnight, not because the technology failed. On April 28, 1891, Baltimore manufacturer Clarence Kemp secured U.S. patent number 451,384 for an apparatus for utilizing the sun's rays for heating water. Kemp did not invent solar heating, but he packaged it into the first commercially viable home appliance, the Climax. His design placed black-painted iron tanks inside a heavy felt-insulated wooden box covered with a glass lid. Sunlight passed through the glass, while the dark surfaces absorbed the solar energy and the insulated box trapped the heat. This design turned raw sunlight into household utility. The promise of free hot water meant free fuel, though homeowners still paid for the heavy metal unit, the pipework, and the rooftop installation. Still, in an era of expensive coal and wood, the math made immediate sense. While Kemp manufactured the Climax on the East Coast, the technology found its true momentum thousands of miles away in Southern California, where abundant sunshine met high energy prices. This transition from a patented novelty to a standard household utility raised a practical question. How would ordinary homeowners integrate solar heated water into their daily routines? By 1897, local estimates suggested that roughly 1/3 of Pasadena homes used solar energy to heat their water. Though not a perfectly audited modern census, this historical estimate captured a massive regional shift. Homeowners no longer had to chop wood or stoke coal stoves just to take a warm bath. But the early single-tank systems had a glaring drawback. They cooled rapidly after sunset, leaving families with lukewarm water by morning. In 1909, an engineer-entrepreneur named William Bailey introduced a practical design evolution that solved this issue. Bailey did not invent the basic solar principle. His talent lay in rearranging the components for maximum efficiency. His day and night system separated the solar collector from the storage tank. The flat, glass-covered collector remained on the roof, exposed to the direct sun, while the heavily insulated storage tank was positioned separately inside the house. Because the storage tank sat higher than the collector, hot water rose naturally into storage, where the thick insulation kept it hot long after dark. The engineering change worked. Bailey's company sold more than 4,000 day and night units by 1918. The technology quickly spread from Southern California into other sun-rich regions, particularly the rapidly growing cities of Florida. By 1941, cumulative records show that at least 60,000 solar water heaters had been installed across the United States. This vast pre-war installed base proved that solar water heating was a fully functioning, mainstream household market, far beyond a mere experimental curiosity. By the end of 1941, the thriving civilian market faced an immediate and total material freeze. The United States entered World War II, and the federal government rapidly mobilized the nation's industrial capacity. Under the authority of the War Production Board and related mobilization agencies, strategic metals were diverted away from domestic manufacturing and redirected entirely to the war effort. Copper sat at the very top of the military's priority list, desperately needed for ammunition, aircraft wiring, and shipbuilding. Yet, copper was also the lifeblood of the solar water heating industry. The flat plate collectors of the day and night systems, along with virtually all competing designs, relied on soft-drawn copper tubing and copper coils. These elements formed the essential heat transfer paths, carrying solar-heated water from the rooftop collectors down into the household storage tanks. No other widely available metal possessed the necessary thermal conductivity and corrosion resistance to make these passive systems function. When the government prioritized military supply lines, the civilian solar industry was stripped of its core resource. In the historical wording, when the war came, the government froze the use of copper, bringing the solar industry to an abrupt halt. This sudden stoppage did not stem from a market failure. Homeowners still wanted the systems, and the underlying technology remained highly effective, as tens of thousands of active installations already proved. Instead, the freeze was a pure supply and priority decision made by federal planners. With copper strictly allocated to military priorities, manufacturers could no longer source the tubing required to assemble new collectors. Production lines across the country fell silent simply because the physical material needed to build them was legally locked away. With the war's end, the expected solar revival never came. Instead, the country's domestic energy infrastructure underwent a massive realignment. Heavy steel pipelines quickly carved across the nation, carrying cheap natural gas from Texas and the Gulf directly to suburban neighborhoods. To secure their dominance, gas utility companies launched aggressive campaigns, offering free or heavily subsidized water heaters to any builder or homeowner who hooked up to their lines. These gas appliances were incredibly cheap to buy, simple to install, and easily financed through post-war home loans. For developers building thousands of suburban tract homes, hooking up to the ready-made municipal gas grid was far easier and cheaper than mounting custom copper solar collectors on rooftops. The solar industry, frozen at its peak, was completely boxed out of the post-war building boom. By the early 1950s, gas-fired heaters claimed 80% of the market, while solar sales fell to less than 2%. After the wartime interruption, solar never regained its market share, buried under cheap fuel and subsidized utility networks. At its core, this technology relied on a simple principle of physics: hot water rises. The rooftop collector, housed in a glass-topped insulated box, absorbed the sun's heat through its blackened metal surfaces. As the solar energy warmed the water inside the tubes, that water expanded, became less dense, and naturally traveled upward. It emptied directly into the top of the indoor storage tank, which was positioned higher than the rooftop collector. At the same time, the heavier, cooler water at the bottom of the indoor tank sank, traveling down another pipe to enter the bottom of the solar collector. This continuous loop, known as a thermosyphon, operated entirely on gravity and temperature differences. It required no mechanical pumps, no electricity, and no complex controls. Households drew from this stored hot water for bathing or laundry, using the system as their primary supply on sunny days, or routing it to supplement a standard heater during overcast weather. While the system was highly efficient, overnight heat loss, cloudy days, and winter freezing risks in northern climates were constant operational limits. Still, for millions of Americans, the natural cycle of rising heat provided reliable, free, hot water. This reliance on the sun's natural path belongs to a design tradition stretching back thousands of years. In the 1st century, the Roman philosopher Seneca observed bathhouses engineered to capture the sun all day long through the widest of windows. Roman builders positioned public baths facing south, utilizing massive glass openings to trap solar heat and reduce the wood needed for their furnace systems. This ancient practice was not a direct blueprint for Kemp or Bailey, but it demonstrated the same fundamental principle. The physics of passive solar heating had been validated for millennia. When the American solar water heating industry vanished mid-century, it was not because the technology failed to work. A wartime metal shortage, rather than any technical flaw, dismantled a highly efficient household utility that had already stood the test of time. Everything I have documented across this channel, the food, the water, the soil, and the home itself, is available right now in the Lost American Home Manual. Get your copy at earlhadley.card.co or the link in the description. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. Tell me in the comments, do you know how much your water heater actually costs you to run each month?